All right, we are live. GM, everyone. We got a roundtable coming up. We got a lot going on in little nouns. We got a lot going on in nouns. Prop 153. Are little nouns going to fork? What is going on? We're going to get started right after this. Hey, GM, everyone. Index. Let's start with you. Index, how are you?
GM, I'm doing pretty well. A lot going on in nouns, little nouns, anything nouns. Kind of like some of the juiciest topics to date, I think. We've been kind of on this journey on the metaphorical ship, and we might be losing our vessel, I think. Might have to jump ship before we ever make land.
That's right. That's right. Just a reminder for everyone tuning in. This is a live stream. This is an adventure. We are sponsored by Little Nouns, at least as it existed at Prop 116. So this is not financial advice, not legal advice, but we are sponsored by the OG Little Nouns DAO. Shout out Little Nouns DAO. We got this weekly show. We mentioned we got a lot going on, but why don't we get started with I think is the most important topic right now, and that's Prop 153. So I'm going to shoot that up on the screen right now. Index, can you set the stage for us here? What are the stakes here if this prop passes and is executed? What's going to happen?
So this is a proposal. It includes all 16 of the nouns that Littles holds, and if this passes and we get more for votes than against, and it's queued and executed properly, then Littles is going to send 16 of our nouns into an escrow, and that is reversible, but I don't think that will happen. And so our nouns will sit in escrow for a little bit until that fork 2 meets threshold. Could take a couple weeks. I think right now the threshold sits at about 33, 34 nouns. So in a couple weeks, it'll be a little bit, tiny bit higher, but not really much. So we'll have about half of fork threshold just on our own, and we'll see. I don't know what kind of ETH we'll get back right now. There's a lot of big props pending, but that's kind of the story. We might finally enter a nouns fork.
Yeah, I noticed it's going to send our favorite, or at least my favorite noun, my sort of the vessel of this live stream here. It would send this to the escrow contract without without an owner. So, what's the best place to conceptualize what's going on here, Index?
I mean, I guess it depends what you're looking for. I think the best place where I would start would just be the little nouns kind of proxy, which is littlenounns.wtf/vote, where we can kind of see what's been shaking out the last week. Another place you can go is to the nouns fork page, but this page kind of gives you an idea of what has taken little nouns by storm. Discord's been in a fever over these series of I don't even know what it is. Is it 6 props now? Yeah, 6 different props.
The dirty dozen, half dozen, they all start with fork. The fork props. One of which passed, but turns out when it's executed, it's going to fail. So then I guess 151 was put up. Is anyone here that wants to sort of speak to this, talk about this? T-Mobile, I don't know if you're around, if you want to unmute, GM.
Hey, what's up?
Yo. Yeah, how's it going? So you've written a lot of these fork props. I understand you're a proponent of the fork of little nouns forking its nouns. Could you describe sort of what this means for little nouns, what you see happening in the future if the DAO adopts sort of your version of forking or 16 nouns?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you why there's so many props. So because there's a escrow period and a fork period, and they're two separate functions, we need to make sure that we're ready to go on either function. Given we can't predict what the state of the DAO will be either in fork period or not, when the props actually make their way through. In terms of why I think we should fork is I think we should secure the liquidity from our 16 nouns while we still can. I also think that this is not mutually exclusive to proposing props to nouns. I actually saw, there's people putting up props that have fork nouns as well recently. So I think we aren't severing our ties with the OG nouns DAO by forking our nouns. I mean, the meme lives within our Lil Noun PFPs. So I think it's the best path for us. And I think we should put ourselves first right now in the situation. And we're not totally locked out of buying nouns cheaper in the future. But if we can see where this is headed, we might as well take our liquidity here, go ahead and build locally with the small funds that we get from that cash out, and then have a sustainable path forward for our DAO for the next year, 2 years. Open to hear anybody else's thoughts, because I know you all know exactly what I think.
Yeah, I'm curious sort of how you see the DAO spending its liquidity or saving it, or sort of what your vision is if we do rage quit from this new fork, we get a bunch of ETH. What's your vision as to how that treasury should be utilized?
Yeah, before I go into that, I want to address this dichotomy that I keep seeing. Like, there's people that want to just sit on the ETH and don't spend any of it, and then there's people that are totally nounish and want to fund all the ideas. And I think there's very few people that sit at each side of those extremes, and really most people exist somewhere on the spectrum between them. So just because a DAO chooses to be conservative and patient with identifying the right ideas to fund and giving proposers the time, sometimes multiple tries. I mean, look at how many props I put up, right? And multiple tries to be successful. The way I see it is we'll use the funds to sustain us and then also fund some small things within our DAO. But it also doesn't preclude us from either buying nouns later on, or even without nouns, making proposals to nouns for funding. So I think that's kind of our best bet given the treasury that we have.
Yeah. Did you, let's see, I know you have or had personal nouns. Did you already fork your nouns?
I do. I have nouns in Fork Zero DAO.
What's your experience been like in Fork Zero? Have you quit already? Are there props going up?
Yeah, no, I haven't quit. I'm actually going to hang tight in Fork Zero for now. It's a bit of a, I guess you could call it a social staking DAO. For now, we're just staking ETH, and we've got a chat, and we're taking it slow. We're not in a rush to fund anything right now. We're not in a rush to burn any ETH. But it doesn't mean that we won't fund things in the future. And then also, if we ever turned auctions back on, we would respect the fact that there is a book value for these things, and we would set a reserve at book, possibly with some percentage tax.
Interesting. It's so interesting. Do you think? Let's see. Is there an interface for proposals? By the way, somewhere.
Jacob put up fork0 .wtf, the number 0.
Oh, amazing.
You can also use one of our favorite front ends from earlier in our season, Tally, to get an idea of what's going on as well.
Oh my gosh, how interesting.
But yeah, this is a recent prop. I'm not in fork0, but I'm following it. I've been following it. This is a recent prop to kind of convert in a semi-manual process USDC and ETH to Steth. T-Mobile, you're not on this, but do you have any like comment or context for this prop?
Yeah, the plan is to just convert everything to Steth. And there's been a multi-sig that's established. There's a few signers that some of you probably recognize on it. Hopefully there aren't any issues with this prop. Pretty risky, right? The whole treasury. But I think it'll be all right.
Well, not the whole treasury, just the USDC and our ETH, right?
Yeah.
I believe all the rest of the treasury already is Steth. So kind of the idea is the entire treasury will now be staked.
Interesting. And so Noun 12, I thought I saw him, Noun 12, also voting on main nouns. Did he fork some, or did he?
Some people forked half and half. Some people forked a few and kept a few. Some people forked them all. Some people fork 0 and fork 1. Patricio.
Yeah.
Oh man!
I just looked it up. This is about I think it's about $250,000 between ETH and USDC. So it's not the craziest amount, but it is
Small time rug potential.
yeah, but
All right.
I would assume these are some trusted parties in fork0. It is interesting to go like immediately kind of off chain, but I guess if that's what the DAO is okay with, we'll find out when voting happens. I guess I assume everyone's on board already, but I am curious. I guess when people do rage quit fork0, do they provide like information or any sort of like reasoning in the private group,
No.
or is it just kind of happening?
So far, haven't seen any reasoning. It's people just quit, and as you can see, a lot of people have quit. I think it's cool to just have the optionality to quit at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting to watch it kind of play out, even though maybe a little more closed off than the original noun, so you can't get the full picture unless you're in it. But I don't know. I guess it's kind of going to be exciting to see both DAOs play out, maybe even the third DAO now. And then I guess a fourth maybe, although I think Littles will, or at least I hope Littles will quit the new DAO whenever it's formed. The tricky thing with that is that once we fork our nouns, there's kind of no turning back, and there's no like real safety net. It can only be, we can only quit through an on-chain prop, which has some risk involved.
Yeah, Index. I'm actually glad you're touching on that. Hey, this is Wyland. Sorry to jump in, but how would Lil Nouns, given the structure of the governance, actually move through the rage quit process, assuming a fork happens?
I mean, we just got to put another on-chain prop to call those like functions or transactions on the new DAO. It does require another prop, which is kind of unfortunate. You can't do it all in one. So I don't know. I assume those who voted against the fork will switch sides, kind of, so to speak, and vote for like quitting and not staying in the DAO. So I don't know if it's going to be that big of an issue, but there is some small risk that if like the DAO is secretly captured or some malicious actors control, veto can't really like save us here in this proposal. But I would hope, the participating members and littles would vote the right way.
Yeah, that does bring up one thing is the way this is structured. And I mean, there's not really any way around it given the timing thresholds, but it commits us to join a fork that we don't know who's a part of that. We don't know if there are malicious holders who are going to join that and possibly attack us. Have you thought much about that, T-Mobile, or does that concern you at all?
No, I'm not too concerned about a governance attack. The governance defaults for the fork DAO are set pretty high. So I'm not expecting someone to be able to get a prop through quickly to rug us before we can quit. And I do agree with the folks that have spoken so far that the best option here is to quit, but there is a risk that like, hey, we got to put up another proposal and we all have to agree that we should quit. And I just hope that if we are in a situation where we're sitting in a fork DAO, that, at least at that point, we could agree that it's better to have the ETH in our treasury than sitting in a fork DAO that it's going to be difficult for us to interface with.
Fair.
Yeah, and I think it can be just one prop because we'll technically have to, because we're initiating the escrow potentially. I think that's the most likely factor. I mean, most likely scenario, if this prop does pass, we'll initiate the escrow. We will have to claim our noun too. So that's like another step. But I think the claim and the rage quit should be able to be executed in the same proposal.
Cool. Yeah, no, I saw that if everyone in the fork, or actually that escrow doesn't claim, there's a 30-day delay to start the new DAO.
Oh, so maybe it might have to be two props, but I don't know. I guess you can bundle into one, and then the quit function would just fail potentially. But we would still claim our new nouns, I guess.
I see.
I don't know. We'll see.
And then have another prop behind it with the quit function just in case.
Yeah, just in case someone screws us over. But it's a messy process, I guess, for sure.
Yeah, I think what's cool about this, but also it's kind of tiresome because these are the third round of fork nouns props, is aligning two separate on-chain mechanisms. So you've got nouns DAO going with V3, its new fork protocol, and then we've got our governance, right, and its own inherent delays, and just aligning those two things is pretty tough.
Yeah. What's your experience been like? Has it been frustrating, T-Mobile, and getting all these up, or has it been like exciting, intriguing? How would you describe the series of props has felt for you as a gamer?
I think it's been exciting. And it's been pretty fun chatting with everybody in Discord, constantly going back and forth around in circles about the same stuff over and over and over again. But a new version of it every day. So, I mean, I think it's cool. It keeps this whole thing interesting. And really, it's just a prop that's up. No matter how I feel about it, clearly you guys know how I feel about it. I've made that clear. But no matter how I feel about it, it's up there to vote, and it'll be on chain, and either we do it or we don't. If we don't do it, do I think that Lil Nouns is over? No. It's just now we're playing a different game where we keep the 16 nouns, right?
Panda, you there or are you muted?
Yep. Yeah, Index, where do you want to take this? What do you want to chat about?
I'm not too sure. I had a thought like just a moment ago, but I kind of forgot it.
I have
Yeah,
a
we have
question
this-
for you.
Sure. Let's hear it.
So there were a few people in the first set of fork props that were concerned about reputational damage. I don't remember who mentioned it. I can't remember if it was Mike Good or Prof. Sorry, Mike, if it wasn't you. But what do you think about that concept of reputational damage for forking? And that would be like your reputation with OG nouns.
Yeah,
Oh.
if I could speak to that, my identity is Lil Panda. So, yeah, I mean, the whole identity I've created is sort of around Lil Nouns. So, if Lil Nouns forks and nouns, OG nouners kind of tend to dislike Lil Nouners because of that. That's a ding to my personal reputation, my pseudonymous reputation. I mean,
I think I likely feel differently than you about this topic, but I can only really speak from like a personal perspective. If I do see someone that has forked in the past, I mean, I guess it's like a case by case basis, but I definitely will apply like that filter, knowing that this person had forked. It all depends, though. I mean, there's different levels of forking. There's like the pure arbors that don't care anything about nouns. There's community members who clearly care about nouns but just disagreed. So it's a case by case basis. I do think there is some, like, I don't know if I would call it damage, but some reputational adjustment, at least from my perspective on some members. But it's a case by case basis. I don't think I could speak generally on this. I do also think, like, in the case of Ugly DAO or Little Nouns, if we do end up forking things like that or groups like that, being compromised of like a larger group kind of lessens the reputational factor on individuals of that group. So, like, if Little Nouns forks, I don't think that means every Little Nouner needs that kind of lens applied to them. If that kind of answers your question a little bit from my perspective. I think you, without speaking for you, you think there's not really any reputational thing, and you're probably more of like a, I don't know, pure logic on chain action type guy. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think you know what I think.
Yeah, of course I know what you think.
It is, it's kind of like we got to make the best decision in the moment for us. And it's just about adapting to whatever the on-chain environment is at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair enough. For me, like, I know you're coming, you do the math, you do the logic. I do think there's like a dream of nouns. There's like a hope and a dream of nouns where like sometimes that doesn't matter, and like other methods can win out in the end. And so like sometimes I apply that dream, but I also put on different hats depending on what noun I'm wearing or what PFP or what DAO I'm in. So I change my mind all the time too, depending on where my vote is coming from.
Yeah, and I like that concept of hats. Like I said earlier, I don't think any of this stuff is as polarized as it ends up coming out on Twitter or Farcaster or whatever. I really think the folks that are still here now clearly care about nouns and think that there's something here, like some type of on-chain innovation that keeps us coming back. A game that's like social, but also has real-world consequences. And And I think whether you're in a fork DAO, whether you quit, or whether you're in OG nouns, like there's something in you that drew you in. And then I would say, like, of course there is the pure arbor that has voted no to every single proposal. Like if you look at their voting history, except for maybe V3 and the Code Arena audit. So like you would have to discount a few props, but I feel like the majority of people join nouns and are still in nouns or around nouns because they do actually see something here that they identify with.
I think I'd mostly agree with that, and perhaps like a good filter would be those who have not quit Fork Zero yet. Probably could be given some of that benefit of the doubt. I know it's still new and like fresh, so we'll see. Maybe in a few months who's left there, kind of governing and building. I don't even like the term building, but I just used it. But yeah, those who haven't quit the Fork Zero can probably be given that benefit of the doubt.
Well, I'm ready to start this road to redemption as soon as possible. I'm ready to make amends with everyone I've wronged.
Yeah, I mean that the essence of what you were sort of alluding to about why people are still here is something about nouns. I mean, our conceit, or the conceit of this show, really is that nouns is a game, and it's this complicated game that's now spread out over multiple forks, multiple contracts, but that at its heart, it's really just a game, but an extremely interesting game that takes place on chain, and the rules change, the environment changes. Yeah, if we could switch gears a bit to talk about sort of the burn. I don't know if that's going to be too controversial, but what are your thoughts, T-Mobile, on the burn?
Yeah, and I'm gonna fall into that probably like logic category. I think you want to keep mechanism design as simple as it can be and still accomplish all the goals. I think the goals, though, is where the problem lies, and different people have different goals. Like, for example, for some people, the meme of a noun every day is really, really important, and not breaking that is imperative to the mission of nouns. And even if those nouns are currently going to arbors daily, it still is important to have one noun a day, and it's part of the meme. Me, I'm not too attached to memes. I'm a little bit more flexible. So I would say if we have to sacrifice the meme of a noun every day by setting a reserve price at book, we could experiment whether there's demand there. And if there's not, then we don't mint a noun every day, but we also don't have an arbor problem. And we also don't have to put ourselves under the gun to fund just anything or burn the ETH. I think it gives people time to come to the DAO with good ideas. And most of those ideas, more times than not, take more than one try. So I just think adding a time component is unnecessary. And for me, I would just do away with that daily contingency and being so tied to that daily meme. But then again, you got to remember, I'm a relatively new nouner, so there could be some core memory, some core history that I didn't encounter that other people did that really tie them into that. So those are my thoughts.
I'd probably fall into like the one noun every day meme camp. Even if it does go to Arbor, obviously prefer not to, but I enjoy personally like watching the FOMO, watching the settlement of the new auction. Obviously the auctions themselves aren't that interesting right now, but when they are, it's kind of exciting. And then I guess even after like this fork kind of period just happened, this first auction is a little more interesting than the others, but I think I fall in that meme camp for sure. I don't know, Panda, what about you?
Well, when you say that meme camp, you mean the meme of the one noun a day?
Yeah, pro one noun every day forever. Like there's a few things in nouns that I would have trouble getting rid of, and that's like the top one maybe. I'm trying to think of others, kind of not coming to me in the moment, but I'm usually a little tired when we do this. So I'm kind of like,
I mean, I think the great thing is it looks like at least we have one noun a day on OG nouns, and then Fork Zero is like no nouns per day. And it sounds like we'll be implementing sort of some kind of book value mechanism into the design with reserve price. So I just think it's fascinating that we're kind of going to have both.
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of thinking right now, just like off the top of my head, it probably would have been really healthy for the DAO to have this happen like a year ago or something like that, and that camp could have already been experimenting with it for over a year now. But I don't know, maybe that's crazy. I do think T-Mobile, if like you could pick one like a book value, what do you think is like the optimal like book value of a noun? That question probably doesn't make that much sense because book value is tied to treasury, but like what number do you think like would attract the most like aligned participants in your DAO?
Yeah, no, I mean, as you said, book value depends on the treasury, but if you're set, maybe we could change the example to like an arbitrary reserve, kind of like we have in Lil Nouns. You want to keep it high enough that there is some barrier to entry, but you also want it to be low enough that people could actually buy in if they needed to. Like, for example, I think the barrier to entry to Lil Nouns is about appropriate. If you want to get one on secondary, maybe it'll run you like a little under $200. If you want to buy one at auction, it'll run you a little bit more than that. And I think that's a reasonable barrier to entry. And when people are joining cults, there needs to be I don't want to say buy-in, but there needs to be some ritual. For us, that's a mint or at least a secondary sale, right? And then all the hazing that comes in Discord. But that's kind of what I see with a reserve, and it's hard to decide. There's definitely some connective tissue to the treasury value for sure. But then, there will be some, unquantifiable, non-measurable mean value that, the brand itself attracts. So long-winded answer to say, like, I really don't know. I think Lil Nouns are getting it right now. But I would just set book, and for Fork DAO, I would just set book and add some small tax. It doesn't have to be huge, but yeah. What do you think, Index? What do you think is the best price of a noun or best reserve? Like, if there was just going to be an arbitrary reserve on OG nouns, what would it be?
I don't know if I have a good answer. Like I know my question kind of didn't really make too much sense, but my thought was like in Fork Zero, I haven't really followed, but I assume book value is still 36 point something ETH, maybe a little higher because of staking. But to me, like, is it going to attract new participants? Is it like a new participant, even though they can kind of say their investment's safe? Is it going to attract someone new at that high of a value? I guess you could always just quit if you're not comfortable. So like the barrier of entry is kind of low. Not barrier of entry, but the risk is kind of low. But
community too. So
yeah.
Like, I feel like when people buy NFTs, especially expensive ones now, there's always a risk that this thing is not very liquid. But joining the Fork DAO, there is that quit function, and I feel like that can bring peace of mind to people as they deal with on-chain governance, and also whether they might need liquidity at some point in the future.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if people kind of come in and out more often. Like sometimes there's Discord channels or like Discord servers that I'll pop in, I'll read something, I'll leave. I don't know if like a DAO will ever become like that, but I guess that possibility is there. But for the OG nouns, I'm kind of okay with assuming we could get rid of like arbors wherever the auction landed. I don't think I have reserve or anything in mind. If someone gets a noun for 1 ETH and I paid 52, I would hope that that member kind of would bring outsized value to the DAO over the ETH potentially. That's kind of like my dream situation. I don't even know if I did that personally, but that's kind of what I would hope for. I don't think I have any number. Silence.
Hey, Index, could you give us an update? So Fork 1 was just executed 4 days ago. Or no, sorry, forking period ended just 13 hours ago. So a memeish number of nouns in this fork. So when can they have 30 days to quit, or there's a 30-day time lock on governance? So are people already quitting from this one?
I actually have not looked. I've been so caught up in the little stuff that I haven't looked at this one as much as I was following Fork 0. I'm gonna say I assume people didn't really claim all their nouns yet from prior to POAP executing the fork. But I don't know. We could probably click in and see.
Yeah. I also noticed that Fugazi is bidding on the daily auction and then forking. So I assume he's making Fugazi, whoever they are making a profit. Do we know how much they're making?
I believe this noun that you're looking at right now went for like 31 ETH. And
Okay, so on this noun right now.
I was muted talking, but I don't have the full information, but that noun that you were looking at, I think sold for about 31 ETH. And the book value at the time was like a little under 34, maybe. It's not like the quickest calculation because it's in so many different ERC20s. But I think it was somewhere in the 33 ETH range. So they made a few ETH on that noun specifically.
But then they're bidding in the current auction here for 20 ETH. Anyway, T-Mobile, have you looked at this ARB opportunity? Do you think it's a good opportunity? How come more people are doing it?
Do I look like an arbor man? Come on. Would never do that.
I think this one is a lot riskier. Obviously, like the threshold at 10% is pretty low, 30 something nouns, but there's some massive props going up. There's some noun distributions. The book value probably won't drop down to 20, but I think it's already looking like it could go down like under 30. Maybe I haven't really done the math, to be honest. I feel like I'm slacking a little bit, but it's a lot going on now. It's hard to juggle all these forks.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, it's not really interesting to me to just arb downs for a few ETH instead of just play the game through Lil Nouns, or if I still had Nouns OG. I mean, I'm playing the game through Fork 0 and Lil Nouns, so that's kind of where I spend my effort, not daily arbs.
Fair. Well, let's maybe get someone else up, Mike or Borg. You guys want to chime in, Wylan? Questions, comments?
I mean, I don't think we want me chiming in on that last comment. So,
Okay.
Yeah, my view is just so totally different that I'm just sort of just chilling out. I think the reserve price is 0. I think the price of a noun is 0.
Fair. Yeah, interesting. I'm going through some candidate props here. Index on nouns. Unstake all Steve.
Yeah, I think Wyland was about to say something maybe, so I'll give him a chance if he wanted to chime in.
Thanks, Index. Thanks, Panda. Yeah, I guess the thing for me with the burn, because that was the biggest topic we were just on. I've seen a few people articulate my thoughts better than I could, so I'm just gonna like kind of steal other people's quotes here. But somebody said that they almost see it as like enshrining a cultural failure point into the protocol, and something about that resonated like really true with me. And part of me questions like if we should be protocolizing cultural failure points, or if we should instead, pursue it's probably a more difficult challenge and requires like a longer term view, right? And this guy like 7856 said something about like we got to do the boogie right now, right? Which is like, yes, there's arbors and we kind of have to like dance with them, right? um to figure out better protocol solutions for these things, and be willing to dance in the dance that is kind of like cultural solutions in the meantime. And yeah, I think it feels like what, and again, I'm like T-Mobile, I'm a bit of a newer nouner, I'm not even a nouner, just newer to the nouns ecosystem. But what, rather than a burn, I think nouns needs a gun. And by a gun, I mean a GUN, a grand unifying narrative. I think the core ethos of the project is, like positive sum world building, right? Like, how do we implement public goods, whether it's digital or physical, to uplift society and make it a better place? But the messaging strategy by kind of the core, arguably there's no core team, but arguably there is like a core team behind nouns. I think the messaging strategy right now just isn't working to rally people around that goal of positive sum world building. And so I think uh, we could not do this burn and not protocolize potentially, a cultural failure point, and instead dance around building a more unifying narrative, and see what results come from that. Yeah, because I don't know that the burn actually does immediately fix the ARB opportunity, just based on what WAG and other people who are better at like some of the math around this than I am. I don't know if it actually fixes the ARB opportunity. And it definitely turned off. It just left a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, who care a lot and who have contributed a lot. So I question the wisdom of it as a strategy, and I think we could again pursue a more unifying narrative.
Fair, fair. Question here. I just noticed the burn audit funding is sponsored by Wiz. And so I understand T-Mobile, you're against the burn. Is Wiz too? Or is this something that you and Wiz disagree on?
Wiz is a burner. I'm not a burner. So we do disagree on this.
How has that impacted your relationship with Wiz at all?
No, not at all.
Interesting. I mean, it's such a contentious issue, and you guys are kind of on the opposite sides.
Yeah, and I mean this is truly, this is an audit, right? This is not the actual burn getting implemented. So I mean, it is what it is. We probably should get it audited, right? Whether we use it or not. But yeah, no, I mean, people can always have different opinions. Wiz brought me into nouns. I wouldn't have bought my first noun if Wiz wasn't in my ear and encouraged me to watch the auctions daily. And then I started looking into the proposals and stuff. So yeah, Wiz is definitely the homie, whether we agree or not on the burn. There's a few of my friends that are burners. Wilson is a burner. So I mean, you don't have to agree on everything. I mean, even in Lil Nouns, you guys, I mean, most times we don't agree on stuff, but I still think we're homies at the end of the day, at least online.
Definitely.
I guess I'll speak. I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know if I have too much to say about the burn. I think like the meme of it is kind of incredible. I understand that it's like real money at play and it's like a serious issue. But for me, as like an internet degen, I could see like this dream scenario in 10 years. These people go and like find nouns, and it was this group of people on the internet that were so crazy about their like concept that they were willing to burn millions of dollars potentially. To me, I don't know. I find that kind of exciting, even if it's a little crazy, and the timeline is fairly condensed. But yeah, I don't know. The meme of the burn, it's a little too exciting for me. But I'm also more of like a nouns enthusiast and fan and like gamer than anything else. And so from that perspective, it's exciting, I think. I understand
Index.
many people will find it to be crazy though.
Yeah, Index. I feel like you brought up a really good point that I forgot to mention, which is there's like multiple memes kind of going on at the same time here. The one that draws me in and that keeps me here is the meme of positive sum world building. But then there's the glasses, then there's the daily auction, then there's now the burn as like a meme, right? And yeah, I just think the memes that we proliferate matter, and I just think this is a really divisive meme, and maybe it plays out better in the long run, but I don't know, it's iffy to me, but that's just my opinion.
What kind of magnitude are we talking about? And for time frame, it looks like it would only be the first upon noun 1,000, so that's 100 some days away. You said compressed timeline index. What did you mean by that?
I guess this would fall more into like T-Mobile's thinking, but the urge to spend millions of dollars or burn it within like 100 days or so or a few months is kind of aggressive. I just dropped a link in our little chat here that has like a visualization of it that Martin built. But yeah, that's just kind of what I meant by condensed timeline, I guess. Like ideally you would be able to take a little bit longer. But I still just kind of like the idea of it. I don't know, but I'm easily convinced anyway. I don't think I feel too strongly about anything in nouns other than maybe one noun every day.
I think for me, Index, the underlying assumption that the treasury is a liability can be dangerous, and it kind of is, just given the structure, like the literally like the smart contracts, the nature of it, like in our opportunity exist currently, right? So the treasury kind of is a liability, and Seneca was making some really good points earlier of like, as long as we call it a DAO and a treasury, like we're probably going to be stuck here a little bit. Like we need to start thinking about other ways to frame even the language of these things. But excuse me, sticking with the old model for just a moment, I think this thinking of, the treasury, the pot of money, as inherently a liability, maybe isn't productive thinking.
T-Mobile, you had some thoughts or?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, with all of this on-chain mechanism design, there's so many other effects that occur down the line that are really impossible to predict, that like with each of these, opinions that I come to, I of course care about them enough to speak about it, right? And state why I think that, but I'm also totally open to the fact or the possibility that I'm missing something, or that there's something else that could happen that could actually, change the course in a way that nobody could predict right now. I don't want to get too off topic, but I remember when Federation vote auctions or the governance pools first launched, there were a lot of people that felt really strongly that was, harmful software almost. And I think over time, it actually became a mechanism that people got used from and ended up using to push proposals through that they wanted to see. It actually became a bit of a weapon against the vote no always arbors. So, I just like to leave open the possibility that, hey, clearly the burn as it reads rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but maybe that's like just a very like normie lens, or there's some alternate second order effect or third order effect that I'm not considering. So yeah, it's just something you said, Index, popped that into my head to just say like, hey guys, there's things that we can't predict perfectly, and we can make our best guess about what happens based off of protocol, but there's a lot of other things that happen from protocol design that are difficult to specify or predict.
Yeah, man, completely agreed. Strong opinions loosely held because the facts are always changing.
Yeah, I agree. I don't pretend to really like comprehend all the potential second order effects of this. Man, I had something else to say, but I'm kind of forgetting too.
Dude, shout out Federation governance pools.
Oh, yeah, the gov pools.
Yeah, that was some of the funnest. That was some of the most fun I've had playing nouns.
I mean, we talked about it on the show from day one. So we've been avid followers of the pool since launch, and I even helped sponsor that proposal. Obviously, it wasn't really a governance pool at the time. It was more of framed a little differently, but I think T-Mobile helped actually kind of develop that concept out further. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We talked about it every week on this show.
Yeah, I wonder if is Federation going to deploy on Fork 0? I don't know, T-Mobile, if you have any inside info.
And a follow-up, when can Lils have a pool in there? Like actual Lil noun pool?
I think it's a good idea. It's a good way to activate inactive tokens.
It would be a great one for this delegation round for T-Mobile Airways to put up and start a little pool. Win a 0.15 to start it, not much, but maybe it would get it started.
Yeah, I think there was a question for me if I have any insider info on Fork 0 getting Federation. No, there's been no discussion of Federation for Fork 0 so far, but anything's possible.
Shout out SQ watching on YouTube. That looks like, is that a bit noun, Mike? What kind of PFP is that? Is that a bit capybara? I think it is.
That is. Bit nouns are all the rage. I believe Wyland might have just sent WAG one. Wyland, you send that over?
I did not. WAG declined the gift. He told me he thought it was in good hands, but he did appreciate the offer. So I said, fair enough. But I thought it very much was reminiscent of his Saturn and would have loved for him to be a member. Maybe we can do some more evangelizing of bit nouns and what we're up to with bit nouns, and we'll end up taking the gift. I'm rocking my pyramid bit noun as my PFP on Farcaster here now. So.
Dot just asked if we were still on. I guess maybe he would join. We are on our few minutes here, but we might have quite the group on here.
I do want to know, T-Mobile, why you didn't do like a prop to fork less than all of them. Like I advised, like I thought would be a, half or 10.
I think that's a question, I think, for T-Mobile, but I think it was an all or nothing. I don't think it could have been done for just half, right? It had to be all of them or none. Maybe Index knows.
No, it could be any number.
Yeah, you could do any number. Wyland's correct.
Oh shit! Yeah, why did we do all 16? I mean, I guess obviously T-Mobile believes that all 16 should be forked. I guess that's the answer.
Yeah, that is the answer. I think we should secure the liquidity from all 16. That doesn't lock us out from buying a noun or two in the future if we think there's value there. But we should secure the liquidity now, and then decide what we do next from there. I don't think holding on to nouns is the best path because I think it's the value is going down, and it's hard to argue with that when we see book value going down, auction price following it, and also secondary price following it. So it's pretty much we're holding this asset that's going down in value, but we had an opportunity to exit for ETH liquidity, which might also go down, but hey, 1 ETH is 1 ETH. So that's why I do all 16. For me, it's either you stay in or you fork all 16 and then maybe buy back later. So for me, I think it makes more sense to fork all 16 and maybe buy back later for cheaper.
I just personally think it was just too extreme, and like 14, you know, there's stuff within the little nouns that requires nouns. So it does sort of like disrupt stuff that we do to fork all of them, where you could, even if you left 1 or 2, yeah, 2 would have been like 2 for me. Yeah, it just would have been more, I don't know what the word is.
I'd actually agree. If it's possible to make that happen still, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it's the worst thing to keep some in, to not totally sever ties, to allow the snapshot and that governance to function and all that. Yeah, even if I think it's wise to secure the liquidity.
Like beyond just emotion, beyond emotion, they do have a function.
100%.
A quick interlude here, but so what happened with Ugly DAO? Did they sell their noun? Mike, do you know? You must know. Did I miss
Yeah,
this?
both.
Yeah. We had a vote. A bunch of people pushed to sell at the fork. And it was like majority rule, basically. A couple of us in the end just gave in because we didn't want to like just let those people miss out when they wanted out so badly. So like in the end, I just like flipped to a yes. I was hard no for like the first fork, the second, and then like at the second, people just basically were like, please let us out. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Like keep them in? So yeah, I took like a little small loss on my investment into the math noun, but it's in the treasury now, so who knows? Maybe in the future my rat can find its way back home into the can.
So interesting. And so am I reading this right? So you guys sold it, I guess, to this guy Fugazi for 31.5 ETH, who then quit.
Yeah,
So is
the
that
vote
is that like
was
a
not the fork.
quantification of the kind of the value of the personal goodwill or reputation? Is that sort of the difference between what Fugazi was able to cash out and what y'all sold it to him?
Yeah. We just didn't want to be a part of the fork. We didn't want to be enabling that. So it was just, even though we can make a couple extra ETH, we would rather just sell on secondary and not be a part of it. I know some people can't understand that, but it is what it is.
I feel like I actually have like an opposing view here, and I don't know if it makes sense, but I feel like it was almost a missed opportunity. One, I guess it was more ETH, which, I don't know. But almost like a way to broadcast a message to the entire DAO on chain. I think that was kind of maybe a missed opportunity.
The thought was that like half of the people didn't want to sell and didn't want to bring any attention to that they didn't want to sell. So it was like, let that half just kind of go quietly.
Yeah,
Without
I guess so.
broadcasting it, even though it is kind of broadcasted. I mean, everybody fucking knows, but
I do think there's also maybe like a risk too. Like if the internet degen in me, if I had that ETH, I would acquire this noun. My reason for forking would be an ugly prop, and I'd probably say some disparaging remark or something. But that didn't happen, thankfully. But I think if it was Fork Zero, maybe we could have seen something like that with a little bit more of the degen guys. But
yeah, a couple people wanted to give reasons for sure.
I think a reason would have been cool. But I understand both.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't think there was just like a clear consensus, but then in the end, the vote just added up to sell, or it leaned yes. It was kind of like a spectrum of voting, and it all leaned more yes in the end, just by a couple.
Interesting.
There's a chance some of us rebuy together, like some people from the group. So we'll see.
Oh, like an ugly DAO redux?
Yeah, like the people that just still want exposure to nouns but can't afford it. Like, I don't know.
Or even like a party DAO. Be cool to see party DAO used as like a light governance client on top of like a group purchase of a noun.
Right, that would be interesting.
There was a party for a noun, noun 541, I think the birthday cake noun, but they sold or forked it. I kind of forget. I don't think they were really true diehard nouns participants though, so I think maybe a more aligned group party DAO would be interesting. Maybe I'll use it for if I win this next noun. Maybe I'll play around with party for something.
Party DAO is like different than nouns.party, right? That there's like that site that was like prop number 3 nouns.party, and a bunch of people were group buying nouns also. Has it ever worked out with party DAO, like controlling a noun? It's like the logistics there, I guess.
I don't have any experience controlling a noun through party DAO, but we started a party DAO to bid on governance pool auctions, and that worked pretty well. And it was around the time when party DAO released on-chain actions. So now you can run arbitrary on-chain actions on contracts, similar to how you would like set up a transaction for a prop in nouns or little nouns. So I'd imagine there's flexibility there as well to control the noun and how it bids. I mean, not bids, sorry, votes.
Yeah, maybe that's something to consider. Maybe I'll start a party. Who wants to buy a noun with me? Maybe little nouns could just buy a fraction of a noun in my party. Just saying.
All right. Well, it's been a fun chat. I want to thank T-Mobile for coming on. Mike, as always, Borg, Wyland, Index. We'll see what happens next week. I anticipate, I guess, that this prop is going to pass. And we will be, I guess, in escrow for a new fork. So we will see where it takes us. Thanks for joining us, everyone. GM Index, you want to take us out?
Just thank everyone for hopping on. I feel like it was kind of like a fun little chat here. Next week we'll see. We'll either be in escrow or in a fork, or maybe not. But I think this side of the story is not really over yet. We got another few weeks, even if we do get into escrow. But see you next week.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Nouns.
Sizzle reel.
To have a show where people can kind of watch and understand what the whole process is, I think would be super valuable.
Nouns is designed for permissionless creativity. You should just start doing stuff.
Oh my God, the deadline is in 9 minutes.
Do these live interviews.
That's actually really a really good question.
There are really very few yellows that are usable.
Larry King.
Stream directly to Twitter.
Very funny to me that Will Price was in the intro.
Easier to stumble upon.
Ethereum is a name that describes a particular network.
Playing nouns like a game.
How well you know your onions.
Oh, I'm so bad at this.
A very fun, cool example of what's possible here.
Submitted.
watching you work in Figma is very enjoyable in itself.